Good morning, PC Kevin. Just following up today with the online safety video that we looked at about a month ago. Just some updates on that. Hope everybody is coping well out there with the lockdown that we're in at present. Hopefully we'll manage to get out of that soon and get our young people back to school. Some of the young people are back at school as over the last couple of days, specifically our 4th, 5th and 6th years, which is good to see more of our young people there. As I say, just an update. Our social media, we have, there's a variety of social media. The most popular ones I would say would be things like Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok. I've had a wee look at these specifically. Some of them I know better than others, and for all of them across the board it requires the users to be 13 years plus. So we've got our first year pupils who are under that age category, so it maybe will be a situation that they want to be on that or they are on that. So it's not for me to say to our parents that people at that age category shouldn't be on it. This is a guide from the websites themselves, but I would ask you as a parent, because I would say this video is more aimed specifically at the parents, I would ask you as a parent to have a think about whether your child is, or your young person is mature enough to handle these websites and be able to behave safely on it. There are security settings that you could look at as well to see that you're entirely comfortable with what our young people are using online. All of these platforms that I've mentioned have a messaging facility. There's some that require each party to follow each other to enable a messaging to happen, but in others you can direct message somebody. So that's the equivalent really of your young person or your kid having been able to be texted by anybody online, so that can be an absolute stranger. So I would ask you to have a wee think about whether your young person will be able to handle social media and deal with it maturely and be able to deal with it and keep themselves safe. In the community of the school catchment area, which covers the kind of Govan side towards the Pollock Shield side, also from the 1st of January 2021, under the banner of communications, thinking of like the Communications Act that I described in the last video, there have been 68 calls that have been mentioned under the banner of communications. Now that's not all involving young people, but for a large number of that there's young people involved in it. So some of the examples of the things that have been called into police in that time would be threats, bullying by some school children, threats via TikTok, harassment in terms of persistent calling, threats via Instagram, hoax callers, threats via Facebook, threats via text, fraud, blackmailing, which is a big issue at the moment, and images sent without a person's permission as well. So that's some of the things that's happening in our local community. So it's not a massive problem within our local community in terms of the number of calls we get for other things, but it is happening. So that's something to be wary of if you're looking after young people. Could they potentially get involved in things like this? And we're seeing things like on Facebook where maybe a young person, like a young male, has been contacted by somebody purporting to be somebody else, and it can quickly lead to a blackmailing situation because images have been exchanged. So that's something to be aware of. If we're thinking UK-wide, in the last few months or so, there was a situation where there was a male who was sentenced to 25 years in prison. He had approached up to 5,000 children and was purporting to be a teenage girl. He again was looking to share images with young males in particular, and when images were received, blackmailing started, and that ended up in a very serious incident on a large scale. So that male received 25 years in prison, which is good, which means that he's out of society and out of the way and unable to do that. However, it just shows you how quickly that can escalate, and sadly there are some people in society who behave like that. There is another social media outlet that I hadn't heard of until the last few days. That is called Omegle, which I think is so that's spelled O-M-E-G-L-E. So Omegle is something that until recently was available through TikTok, and there was 9 billion views on that. Omegle is open in line on their own website. It says Omegle Talk to Strangers, which I think kind of shows you what the purpose of that website is. They pick someone at random to pair somebody with to have an online conversation. There was a BBC investigation into that recently, and within 2 hours of their investigation starting, there was 27 acts of indecency. So your young person, this went as young as 8 years old, so your young person may get paired with somebody who's significantly older than them and who doesn't have very good intentions either. There is no age verification on that website, and adults and young children were interacting quite freely on that. So Mr MacDonald will retweet the BBC investigation link to that incident what's happened there. So I dare say there are plenty of decent conversations happening on Omeegla, but that investigation has showed it very quickly that can go wrong within there, and we need to do our best to keep our young people safe online. So again, it's an update on social media and on online safety and communications. That, I would suggest, for my time at Bellahouston, will be something that we'll be dealing with quite a lot. So this may not be the last time we hear me discussing about social media and communications, but I want to make sure that the people within Bellahouston are kept safe and that nothing is going wrong because they just don't have the knowledge. So, as I say, this video is aimed specifically at parents. If you can keep an eye on what your children and your young people are doing online, that will help us all to keep this school community a hell of a lot safer. Thank you, all the best.